public waters. That's one thing I really like about what they've done here, you know, is Governor Whitmer stood up for the public trust. The public trust. That's what I would like Governor Holtz to do in Minnesota, stand up for the public trust. But if the governor won't stand up, I will. And so will the citizens. Because these waters don't belong to Enbridge. They belong to us. They belong to Mother Earth. You have a rogue Canadian corporation that is basically holding the Great Lakes hostage. In state after state, they are scaring state officials. You know, and in Minnesota, the Public Utilities Commission said that they thought that they felt like they had a gun to their head. It's why they approved Line 3. In Wisconsin, they didn't find it necessary to tell the state that they had a spill that was 1,200 gallons. And then they sued the Bad River Band who asked them to move on. But here in Michigan, your governor, your attorney general have the courage to stand up for the people and stand up for the water. And, you know, what we need is, we don't need a Canadian multinational holding us all hostage. And that's right now what they're doing. The question I would ask is, who gets the honor of being the last tar sands pipeline? Who gets that honor? You know, it's kind of like the last guy to die in Vietnam, isn't it? Who wants to tell that soldier he's the last man to die for an unjust war? Who wants to tell some Ojibways that they're the last people to have their water contaminated so that Enbridge can make a buck? When Line 5 is shut down, which is what it must be, that sends a very clear message that we are done. You know, Canada just can't use us as a slush to get oil back up into Canada so they can sell it to India. That party is over. You know, it's time to begin addressing the fossil fuel infrastructure crisis we have in this country. And the first step is to close down the riskiest pipeline there is, which is this one, you know, and then we'll move after that. But, you know, we all know that this country has a D in infrastructure, and that all across this country there are pipelines and pipe infrastructure that is beginning to disintegrate. And so let's clean it up before it gets worse. Enbridge has laid corridors across this whole water system, the Great Lakes water system, and there's a lot of old pipes. 75% of the tar sands that comes into the United States comes in through these pipes. And it's the end of the dirty fossil fuels era. And so saying to Enbridge that you have for the past 70 years put us all at risk, and that risk is increasing, now would be the time to move on. You know, what we know is that Enbridge, because it has 225 separate subsidiaries, can't even take care of the responsibility they have. You know, they have $23 billion worth of pipe that needs to be removed. And that's not even shown on their balance sheets as a liability. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So, you know, Erin Dottie Roy talks about pandemic as portal. She says, in the history of the world, pandemics have forced societies to change. This one is no different. That is a reality. Our world has changed for the past year. None of us thought we would be living the way we are now. And so the world is changing. Enbridge isn't. You know, aside from that, we decreased our fossil fuel consumption by 10%. We just had the most tumultuous election and insurrection in the history of the United States, right? And it was a very bitter election, and yet we surged our vote. And we elected people to office that we believed in, you know. And then the economics changing. You know, the party's over in the tar sands. The largest mining proposal was the Teck mine. That was canceled last February. There's no new oil pipelines being approved. The Keystone was just canceled. 2 others were canceled to the east. The Constitution pipeline and the Atlantic Coast pipeline were canceled to the east, as was the Jordan Cove pipeline to the west. So this is not an era to build new pipes. This is an era to start removing old pipes. That's what we want. And so I think that we should just keep pushing, you know, because time's on our side, not on Enbridge's. You know, the fact is that the world doesn't tolerate fossil fuel criminals anymore, or climate criminals. And what we need to do is to make sure that Enbridge cleans up its mess before it goes bankrupt. Because in the history of corporate misbehavior like this, that's what you see, is as soon as there's a big accident, they go bankrupt. And we all know that the Straits of Mackinac accident could be up to $400 billion. You know, I don't know how you quantify that. No idea. All I know is that they don't have it. And so the economics are also on our side. And you know, today I'm here and on the, you know, on the Straits of Mackinac, but You know, I come from northern Minnesota, and we're fighting Enbridge there. They now have a $9 billion pipeline, the most expensive tar sands pipeline in history, and they aren't going to get it built. Very expensive. Most expensive pipeline ever built. You know, out of all this, we should learn some things. One, rogue Canadian corporations shouldn't run your lives. You know, two, we just keep pushing because the just transition is here. How I know that is because, you know, who's the richest guys in the world now? Exxon isn't even the top of the S&P. Who's at the top of the S&P? Jeff Bezos from Amazon and Elon Musk, right? Electric cars and the internet. That's called disruptive technologies. So I say, just hold on, keep pushing, and come to Minnesota this summer because, after all, Enbridge is trying to put in a pipeline and they have 22 rivers to cross. And they're going to have to cross 22 rivers in northern Minnesota this summer. And I think that that is not a good thing to have to face, including the water protectors. We had 250 people that got arrested so far. And that was -10. How do you think it's going to look at 75 or 80? You know? I say come to the river and pray. Come to the river and stand with us. You know?